Towards the last presentation, we are almost running out of the time, so we'll have to do this quickly. No, not really. We are almost close. So, Manasi, you have some time. Right. So let me call upon Manasi Malik to present our database, which has been created by our previous student. Even CleverDB was created by other student. This is another interesting thing you will notice in our lab. Students come, they make databases, they work on some science, they publish papers, they move on in their career. So one of the key people who has worked on dietetics is right now in Harvard working on public health. So one of the prestigious places that it can be, and he has moved on, and Manasi, who has used this data for some analysis, will be presenting this book. So dietetics, an integrative resource for health impacts of food. Manasi. It's okay. It's okay. Just
Hi, good afternoon everyone. So we all know that our diet affects our health, but exactly how is something that needs to be still answered. So in order to computationally find out the interrelationship between food, diseases, genes and chemicals, we need a large and good quality database, and diet analysis is something that is actually solving this. So in this presentation, I am going to be covering the following things: why dietetics, how the database was created, what were some of the key results that were basically analyzed by leveraging this database, and what further possibilities, further questions can be asked using this database, and then we'll go on to a demo of how to use this database. So why dietetics? So basically food interacts with our body in a complex manner and making it difficult to assess its health impacts. So previous studies, what they've done is they have actually explored associations for individual basically foods or diseases through basically experiments. And even though these studies have advanced our knowledge, but they also provide sometimes very conflicting results. For one example would be coffee. So coffee for heart diseases. So coffee is, a lot of publications also say that coffee is beneficial for heart disease patients, but some of the publications also say that it's bad for heart patients. So all these conflicting results also do come up when individual studies are there. So there needs to be some database, some way to compile all this data to look at it in a comprehensive manner. So this dietetic database, what it does is it makes use of deep learning based relation extraction pipeline to compile the health impacts of different food ingredients that are part of the world cuisines. So this compilation basically enables us to do some data mining and also investigate the underlying molecular mechanisms that may be like that may be the reason for these food and disease associations. So coming to the creation of the database, so the food disease associations. So initially a dictionary was created for the food names and the disease terms. So all these food names that were taken from these different databases, like Plant for the Future and Food Plant International, FoodDB and Wikipedia. For disease terms, the Medic Dictionary of CTD database was taken. And once the dictionary was created, approximately 27 million abstracts from Medline were taken, from which name entity recognition and pre-processing was used to extract out sentences that actually talked about how certain food items and diseases were related, whether they were beneficial or whether they were having an adverse effect. So these sentences were extracted out of that. So since there is a lack of publicly available labeled data of food and disease associations, a subset of the data was manually annotated of subset of these sentences of whether these are beneficial or not, and using this a classifier was trained so to be able to predict for the other associations whether it's a positive or a negative association. So this was done using different ML classifiers. The one that did best was a deep learning CNN classifier. So that was about the food disease associations. For the food chemical associations, they were sourced from Knapsack, Phenol Explorer, FoodDB, USDA, Phytochemicals Database, and Nuke Database. So now, since we already had the food and disease associations, now having the basically food and disease associations, the disease and chemical associations now that we have, we can infer how chemical disease associations can be inferred from both these biopatine data. Further, for disease chemical associations, they were curated from the CTD database. The associations were therapeutic, adverse, or marker associations. Marker associations simply mean here it is not known whether it's a therapeutic or adverse association. For disease gene associations, they were they were sourced from DisGenMed and CTD database. For food gene associations, no data was curated. It was inferred from the food disease associations we had and the disease gene associations we had. So using that, we inferred how the food and gene can be associated together. So this is how the database ultimately, the structure of the database ultimately looks like. So we have foods, we have diseases, we have genes and chemicals, and there are all of them are interrelated to each other via positive and negative associations. So some of the key studies and results by leveraging DietRx, there are three that I'll cover. So first one is basically analyzing the food disease associations. So after basically the association labeling and all was done, we were left with 1781 food entities and around 40,000 beneficial associations and around 27,000 adverse food disease associations. And further, these food items were categorized into broad categories like alcoholic beverages, caffeinated beverages, herbs and spices, nuts, and similarly, so on. There were 16 categories. Similarly, the diseases also were categorized into broad categories according to their mesh layer of the CTD. So we can see that looking at the left graph, so this shows us the broad disease categories and how many number of publications. So we see that for most of the disease categories, number of beneficial publications reported are much more as compared to the adverse. Immune diseases is one exception to this. As you can see here, immune and respiratory and mouth diseases are an exception to this, where adverse is more reported. And on the right graph, we see that for different food categories, number of publications. So we see that for herbs and spices, mostly positive, maybe positive associations were reported. So having a closer look at the immune system category. So here we see that most of the associations, so here the blue is the positive association number of publications and orange is the number of negative associated publications. So we see that most of them are most of these food categories are negative immune system diseases, except dairy and herbs and spices. So this may mean that dairy products and herbs and spices may be beneficial for immune system diseases, but other food categories may be adverse to it. So there are some other examples of how we can look at other disease categories and how the food categories are spread for these. So first is cancer, then there's pathology and signs and symptoms. So this is the distribution of the food categories of what was reported in the database and collected. So one trend that we can definitely see here is that herbs and spices seems to have a positive impact across all disease categories. So again, these are more disease categories that we can see. Again, herbs and spices has a positive impact on these associations. So moving on, to quantify the basically effect of a particular food item across different food categories, we used a method called broad spectrum score. So this broad spectrum score is basically, it takes the proportion of associated diseases from a particular disease category, sums all the proportions, and then multiplies it with the total number of disease categories. So what this ultimately gives us is for a given food item, how spread it is across the different food categories. So if I have a food item that has a very high spectrum score, then that means it is beneficial to so if I am looking at benevolent, that is for positive associations, it means that across all disease categories, this is very beneficial. And if the adverse spectrum score is very high, then it means that across disease categories, this food item is harmful for most diseases. So the relative spectrum score was calculated as benevolent spectrum score and minus the adverse spectrum score. So here the relative benevolent score is plotted. So these are colored by the food categories they belong to, and on the y-axis these are the food items, and they are ordered in decreasing order. So what we can see here is that most of these herbs and spices, those are in green color, they have very high relative benevolent score, which goes to say that herbs and spices are generally effective, healthy and positively affecting across all categories of diseases, and which also makes sense because herbs and spices is something that is present in all our recipes. Apart from herbs and spices, there is pomegranate, papaya and horseradish tea that also show high benevolent score relative.
So I have a question. Is it weighted by the number of people who have published this? Because what I see from the top is turmeric and then ginger. Those are the most studied. In any literature you go out of 10 papers, you find 9 will have turmeric studies. So would that contribute to showing that it is actually more beneficial, or is it factored by also that kind of effect?
Right. We have not averaged it for the number of publications. What we have done is to look at all publications which are showing positive or negative effect and created this spectrum score. Broadly, it captures this across mesh disease categories, how beneficial it is in general. So that's a general thing. That's what we mean.
So like the turmeric or curcumin has been studied in every possible inflammatory condition which is there in every possible disease. Right? So in that case, it will always be, if I do not have this data, I would have said that turmeric will come at the top.
So my point is, yes, there is a bias, publication bias that can creep in. This is not published and preliminary data that we are showing right now. Publication bias can creep in here, and we are trying to find ways, statistical ways by which we can actually take out, factor in the publication bias.
Oil is near the bottom, so that will be surprising because normally people look at garlic is one of the most beneficial herbs.
Yeah, it is one of the beneficial. What you are seeing is only the top part of the list. There are not too many of them, 30, 40 probably, right? So it is one of the best, but not the best kind of thing, based on empirical data. That's what you find. So where is the garlic coming up here?
Garlic oil is at the bottom and garlic is at the top.
Garlic is there. So both of them have been reported. So somehow garlic is better, I mean, according to the studies that we have done.
Between garlic and garlic oil.
Yeah, there is a difference. But don't go by the variation that you see here. As I said, because total number of ingredients for this we have study done, for which we have done this study is 2,222. Whereas you see only 40, 50 of them. Only top list has been shown here. So it's not the bottommost actually. Bottom is way below.
These are all a part of the vegetarian diet or non-veg component is also there?
Everything has been accounted, including non-vegetarians.
Mostly the vegetarian diet is
That is because non-vegetarian diet would tend to have mostly low benevolence spectrum score.
Okay.
If you calculate the benevolence, what is shown on the x-axis is the relative benevolence score, meaning benefits minus harms. If you do that, turns out that the meat, do you have the figure? This as well as the next one. You don't have that. Okay, fine. So we have done the calculation, we have an idea. Poster outside actually shows it. Please have a look at it at the tea
the
time.
person will be more healthier if he is vegetarian. We can
I won't
calculate
draw
that or not.
conclusion on camera. I will.
But it data shows that
Yeah,
data
the
shows
data is indicative of this, that certain kind of ingredient categories are more beneficial than others.
Okay.
Which ones are all flashing outside? This is unpublished data, so I'll be a little careful before I draw my conclusions.
Yes.
But indications are like that.
Yes.
One question.
Yes, please.
So, we are all in the food, we are dealing with food and we are already taking so many informations around food, which might be true or may not be true. With this kind of data, will you not confuse people to more greater extent?
On the other hand, as opposed to confusing contradictory data that are coming up, we are doing the consolidation. You know how many papers are gone into this? instead of looking at ginger, 5 papers saying good and 5 papers saying bad, imagine for example for cardiovascular disorder, all we are trying to do is that we have combined anything and everything that has been published on ginger and some disease, any disease that has been reported, 37,000 odd, so approximately 38,000 research articles we have put together, and statistically we are trying to tell you what is the broad result that is coming out of it.
Agree, but how are you communicating the context?
The context will be communicated via a paper, a research article.
Suppose someone has gone through flavor and then.
This is not flavor-DB, this is diet.
Right. Yeah, so someone has gone through all these websites
Right.
and just taken a screenshot and present it somewhere. It will create perception to the students at least like what
That-
is this area, right? That this is the truth. I mean, they may not be telling it directly, but it creates a perception. Like how she asked that ginger and turmeric are studied the most, and therefore it came on the.
Not only they are studied the most, but they have been reported to be positive many times. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm just worried about like how are we communicating the context and the relevance of it to make it applicable?
All we are doing is creating a composite repository of all research articles that have had any publication around food. That's what we have tried to do right now. That's the whole idea behind it. And the fact is that this is not to be used as a medical advice. There is a huge disclaimer at the bottom of it which you have kept it. So I hope screenshot also captures that. You understand what I'm saying? So that there is the idea here is not to provide it as a medical advice, but this is to provide a composite repository where all research articles have been made available to you. Everything that is published around for the last 90 years approximately. That's what we are trying to
So
do.
this data is from PubMed.
This data is from Medline. Yes.
Medline.
PubMed Medline.
Okay.
Another thing is because publications on spice and all are generally done when there is some positive.
I know bias. You mentioned about that.
Number one. Number two, as she rightly asked about the context. Because nothing is absolutely good and
Got
absolutely
it.
bad.
The dosage, for example.
Dosage is there, inter-individual variability is there, application in a particular stage of the disease.
Right.
For that matter.
Good.
So these variations have to be kind of filtered.
No, I got it.
And as in the morning, Dr. Dalal was telling about nutmeg. So it's never
very
going to be beneficial if you were to take 3 hexagon, right?
Right.
So,
As he said.
yeah,
He will die, as he said.
right.
Right, I get that. So, barring right now ingredient, melt disease term and association, we have not dug out any other information yet. Dosage, contradictions, there might be another ingredient which is going along with it, etc. have not been accounted for so far. Getting that information and how many research articles would provide that information in the first place was not available. This was the best mass data-driven analysis that we could think of doing, and we have done it, but context is extremely relevant.
There could be a toxicity angle also to this.
Pretty much there would be. So one way we are providing context is this, that for any association that you find, which is on the database, we are giving a public link there. Just click on it, in one click you go to the abstract and there you get the context. Okay, dosage was this much, or was it done on rats or human beings, for example. Everything that will be available from abstract.
I think if you add Ayurveda descriptions for the context of it,
Okay.
it will actually give a lot of, more high resolution understanding of what will be beneficial in what amount, in what context. So those kind of descriptions maybe, because I see a lot of, we really enjoyed the whole day starting from anthropological descriptions and, historical developments of food, and from there to AI for food. Maybe we are missing some link of documented literature, huge body of literature that exists
Yeah,
with all these contexts mentioned.
absolutely.
So I think that would be a very good, maybe I'll say.
We should talk. I mean, if you are talking about that,
We'll talk about it.
we should talk.
But at the same time, I think this is right approach because the purpose of scientific investigation is not to discover something new every time.
Yeah.
So the purpose is to investigate, to interpret, so that's what we doing. I think it's excellent.
Absolutely, there is no doubt
No,
about it.
nobody's doubting, I mean, or nobody's criticizing what we have done. They are adding on. They are adding on. They said, why not put one more layer?
She has done a fantastic job. I mean, it's a-
Very good, but not implementing that, only making us think.
Yes, indeed.
And now, but I only, which again, was behaving to me and same thing. We must have a business.
Indigenous.
take our own data.
More
Create our
indigenous
own
data.
data, for even like in ginger or a spice. We should do the research ourselves. Because then only it will be directly in context, whatever you're thinking. We should have our own research.
In fact, exactly. Oh, देखो, वहाँ पे पुरुष it very briefly said that. Like that. That's it.
I am willing to have the research conducted and organized. Give me the money.
In fact,
And I think every person wanted to have it. When we have, see, from 4 to 6 to 100, now we have become in 3 years.
Yeah.
And if we all want indigenous data, why can't we have it?
I completely get that. And completely get that. Somebody from
People
the
are on the road for the wrong thing, we can go for the right thing.
right. Yeah. Somebody from the
We have to
bureaucratic
think-
structure has to appreciate this need.
We will do it.
And I thank Anush for putting it so succinctly. I was about to give a one-liner answer about why we can't do it. He simply said this. And I answered everything. Money, funding.
Even the money I said, because of the food research, the money is going to reducing, then nobody is spending money. Money is required,
Yeah.
but capability we have.
Exactly. What we have shown is the ability to do so.
Yeah.
What we need to put, for example, a standardized analysis protocol can be created for all the ingredients if you wish, whether it is flavor, whether it is health part, etc. But then running through this is one ingredient or variations of ingredient multiplied by so many thousand. That's the cost which is involved in it. But if we are looking for a brighter future for our country, if we are looking for not only for the country but for the world, if you are trying to look for better food culture for the world, then we should be investing in it.
Yeah.
That's the simple logic I would like to put.
Let's go to the administration.
I'm more than happy. I've been trying to do it
Make
with
appointment.
I'll be more than happy, sir. I've done it with FSSI. I've had a one meeting by
We
finally.
will take them also with us.
Yeah, and anything that can be done. I mean, we are putting our, literally, all our efforts to get things done. But without funding, this cannot be done. You are talking about scale, Shakil. Scale, right? Individual experiment is no big deal. One can get it done as part of a project.
It is scale.
Yeah, and for the scale, the government has to reach it. Yeah, yeah.
But
Somebody had a comment.
it has to, I'm just totally disagree with that statement. If you go for the public funding, or more in the open source sort of thing, maybe crowdfunding, it is more approachable. When you go for the funding of government agencies, they have a lot of restriction already defined. I have personal experience.
Yeah,
that's why
I think we can have
it has
a
to be
disagreement
open.
on the mode of funding, but the point is that without money and without
that's-
concentrated effort, this cannot be done.
That's right.
Okay, so these were three resources that we presented today. One is Recipe DB. Notice in the beginning, in the morning, I had mentioned to you about what are the different resources that we are building. Recipe DB has two components. One is the structured recipes and the nutritional value, which is plugged into it. Then we have Flavor DB, which is the taste part of it. And finally, we have the Diet RX, which is the health part of it. In fact, Recipe DB integrates all of them, right? So we have presented this, and once again, good news, we are exactly on time, almost like 4 o'clock. We have a half an hour tea break. And we shall be back for the last session where we shall be talking about the nutrition and the Ayurveda, and we have our speakers from IGIB, Dr. Mitali and Dr. Bhavana. So let's come back for the last session, for the end of the day session, and before that let's go for the tea break. Tea is being served in the same room across the corridor, and let us be back sharply by 4:30. Thank you. Oh, wait a second. Before that, we need to felicitate our speakers. Yes, Shabgir, may I once again call you? Thank you. Thanks, Mansi. Thank you. Let's break.